morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well, especially since we had that day off yesterday. I hope that you guys were able to find some type of rest or some type of reprieve. And today, of course, we're back at it, and I'm excited because this is one of our Empower engagements. Usually, each semester, we have faculty and staff that come in and talk with our students across campus as well as within the college on various topics that really are centered around student and or academic development. So I'm just excited that some of my colleagues were more than kind enough to come in, impart different wisdom and knowledge to you guys. And yeah, so I'm going to go through sort of the session wrap ups beginning. Also, uh, some of you guys, I know that you have to leave around 11:50 to head to class. So if we are still in discussion, because some of you guys don't need to, and you can actually stay till 12 or 12:05 or 10, I'm going to make sure that I drop the actual survey link in the chat there, so that way we don't have to stop, and or also you definitely have access to that survey, because of course, as you already know, it's timed. So, of course, today's topic, faculty and professionals take on academic strategies for student success. I thought that this topic was really important because we actually do have a course that students do complete sometimes when they are on academic probation, right? But that information is still valuable to all students. And so some of you guys will never take that class, but I feel like the topic, if we put it in the hands of faculty as well as professionals that have and or still do work with college students every day. Like I said, it could be of extreme value to you. Just some housekeeping. Of course, the room locks at 5. Well, this slide is actually from the book club the other night. So the room actually locks at 11 o'clock, 11:05. So please, of course, be on time. We ask that you have on your camera for professionalism. Um, like I've always said, it's just out of respect, just for the individuals that are taking out their time to present to students. And also, even though we have the general population of Del State students here, if you are a DSU CAS 1890 scholar, you do know that your camera should be on for credit for attending for student engagement credit. Of course, please stay muted unless you are asking a question. And of course, to ask a question, please enter it in the chat and or raise your hand. Myself, if I do see it on my side, I'll be sure to answer it towards the end. I'm pretty sure at the end, roughly, students y'all will have between like maybe 10 to 15 minutes to ask questions to our panelists. And also, I'm gonna ask Miss Azure Patterson if you could monitor the chat. I would appreciate that as well. Different topics that are coming up towards for the rest of the semester are on February 28th. I'll be co-presenting with Miss Troy Darden on effective writing for emerging professionals. Like I said, I believe that that's important. A lot of students come to me as far as seeking guidance on how to reach out and speak professionally to somebody for employment, internship, graduate school, and or even a professor, and also an administrator within the university. So I think that that's important. Conflict resolution in professional spaces, emotional intelligence for the modern leader. I do want to give a shout out to Tavia Mullen, who is one of our textile and apparel studies majors. And yeah, she hit me to this book. So I think that's really important. Student organization membership drive, which will be on April 8th, and then social media branding. Something that is exciting, I never thought that I would do it. I'm the advisor for the Empowerment Book Club. And so we moved into we're getting ready to come up on our third meeting. And so this past Friday, we actually covered chapter 1, which set the foundation and basis as far as overthinking and anxiety. definitely from a research standpoint. But we're also going to move into doing some meditation and breathing techniques, a little small workshop on February 24th. Of course, any student can attend. It'll be from 5:30 to 6:30 in the Ag Annex room, well, Ag Annex building, room 111. And we're going to start with the faculty and professional take on academic strategies. So, without further ado, I want to, I'm going to actually just have each panelist introduce who they are, a little bit about your background and your chosen profession, as well as why. So, Miss Pia Stokes.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Meredith. Talk about going first. All right. Be ready so you don't have to, stay ready so you have to get ready. So, good morning, everyone. I am Miss Pia Stokes. I have been with the university for a little over 10 years now. So, I've been in various areas in the admissions enrollment area, in government relations, and now the director of donor relations. I did not choose to be in higher ed. I started in banking right out of college. I had the dream of going to be working in TV production, but completely changed careers and went to business, got a master's in business. So went to corporate and then ended up here at Delaware State. With that, it speaks to sometimes you don't choose, it chooses you. And you have to be prepared to just adapt and be ready and utilize your skills for that. So, it's a passion that I have. I love the students here. I love the environment. So it's been a great place to be and being in an opportunity and environment to make change. So that's why I'm still here. So welcome and good morning.
Excellent. Dr. Antoinette Todd. Oh, you're actually you're on mute.
Here I go. Okay. Good morning. My name is Dr. Antoinette Todd. I am a research associate and an adjunct professor here at Delaware State University. I started out my career at Delaware State University as a master's student in 2006 and completed my master's in agriculture in 2008. From that time, I've been working at Delaware State as an employee in different levels from research technician to now adjunct professor. Why I chose this profession is because one, I had the opportunity to come to school for free under the Lewis Stokes and Bridge to the Doctorate program, which was really the attraction to come to DSU. And then also, I still wanted to continue with working in the lab that I was working with. And I also continued on to University of Delaware afterwards, where I was funded by my PhD advisor and master's advisor to continue with a PhD at University of Delaware. Of course, that was before we had a PhD program in agriculture, which we do have now. So for you students, there's no need for you to leave now. If you're thinking about an agriculture PhD, you can stay around here. I'm located in the Baker Annex building, office 221, if anyone wants to come and chat.
Okay. And Dr. Terrell Holmes?
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Terrell Holmes. I am the Associate Vice President for Strategic Initiatives. I've been here at Delaware State for, almost as long as Dr. Meredith. I've been here. I like him. I grew up here for about, it'll be 18 years next month. So I pretty much grew up here. Love it here. Love this place. I'm letting you know the people that are on this panel are amazing. They don't hate themselves up as much as they do. So instead of me talking about them, I'm talking about them. Miss Stokes, she is the one that set the framework for admissions at Delaware State University. Like, she defined what admissions does, perfected it. This lady is amazing. Dr. Todd, she's been here for a little while, whether she's a student or teaching, and she's done some amazing work. Dr. Meredith, he grew up here, and I mean, ag is not ag without Dr. Meredith. So these are some amazing folks. They let me hang with them, and I really, really appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I love Delaware State. I got here by mistake, and I've enjoyed it ever since. So thanks for allowing me to be a part of this.
Thank you for coming. Also, well, yeah, Ms. Stokes, you're correct. As far as we're not going to tell Dr. Holmes, we're going to let, we could talk about a lot of his accomplishments, but we wouldn't have much time left. But yeah, so Dr. Kimray Jefferson Moore, my mentor, my good friend, my graduate school advisor. I just see that you logged in. Did you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background?
My apologies for the having technical difficulties.
No worries.
But, it's good to see everyone. I am originally from Louisiana, and I attended Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge. And there I received my agricultural economics bachelor's, and then I went to Alabama A&M. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm. But your camera is facing downward. It's facing at your monitor. Yep, and then you have to swivel it around.
Okay, I'll figure it out later.
No worries, no worries.
But Alabama A&M in Normal, Alabama, I received my MS in agribusiness management, and then I finished my doctoral degree at Auburn University in Auburn, Alabama. And you wanted to know why I chose this profession?
Yes.
So it's a really interesting story, but it was by accident, actually. My sister was at Southern University and she had left a catalog at home. And I looked through the catalog, and the first major was agribusiness. And I went and I asked my mom what it was. And she told me that basically it's the business of agriculture. And she says some key things that I never forgot. She said there weren't a lot of women, which was true at the time. And she said that as long as people needed to eat, there would be a need and place for me in that industry. And when she said those things to me, my decision was made. And so I made that decision early on before I even applied for college. And it was a chance. It was just, I picked up a catalog and that was the first thing. And I asked my mom what it was, and she told me, and I was hooked. And the rest is history.
So one of my questions that I wanted to ask each of you is like, as we are all in our industry per se, we pretty much have our terminal degrees. Ms. Stokes, when you were in banking, MBA, that's pretty much what you need. In higher education, some form of doctorate as far as administration, EDD, research, PhD. But with that comes a lot of intimidation, right? So I know for me, I was always going to be in education. That's all I ever wanted to do. I knew I was going to be in education, but I was surprised that I ended at higher education because one of the things that I did find intimidating just a little bit was earning that terminal degree. So my question, I guess we can actually start off with Dr. Todd. Was there um, any consideration to another occupation because you would end up needing a terminal degree?
I did not start my college career by thinking that I would go on for a terminal degree or for an advanced degree. So I originally graduated from Cheney University in 2004 with my undergraduate degree in biology, and I actually did not think I was going into a master's program, of course, before there was an opportunity. Someone presented an opportunity to me to go get a master's for free through Berkshire Doctorate. But before then, I was working in a industry that I never even thought about before then. I was still in the sciences, but I was in the flavor chemicals industry. So I worked at a couple places where we would make or we would develop flavors, artificial flavors for food. Let's say something like for a vegetarian that still wanted to eat a crab cake. We would just take chemicals actually in the lab and compose them and try to duplicate that flavor of a crab cake, but for someone that's a vegan. So I was in that field for a couple years, but then I went back to visit my undergrad institution, and one of my advisors while I was there, he said, "Hey, there's this opportunity for this free master's. You guys should really think about it." He didn't just tell me; he told a few people that I graduated with who successfully used the Bridge to Doctorate program. That's why I'm always tooting that program because it's been so beneficial to me and several of my closest friends that I graduated from Cheney with. So I did not know that I was going to be in academia when I graduated, but with each successful degree that I earned, I did get closer and closer to thinking that I really do like higher ed. So I believe that I like this better than industry.
I got you on that. And
Yeah.
Dr. Kimra Jefferson Moore, you just really mentioned something that's really important in the sense of job security. So I'm curious to ask Dr. Holmes, because his background is like in computer science, which kind of means like your career is kind of set when we talk about financial. Like you don't need necessarily a terminal degree unless you're going to really go into research and that kind of thing, teaching. So yeah, what about with you as far as when you did when you did start in higher education, did a terminal degree make you want to reconsider going back into computer science or
Yeah, good question. Again, I think it goes back to honestly, like I really got into this by mistake. Um, I was a very shy person, very shy kid, one of seven, middle child, seen and not heard. So I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew I wanted to do some major things. But when I thought about computer science, it was I wanted to be one of the guys, wearing jeans and sneakers every day. In the background, you knew my name, but you had no idea what I looked like, right? I wanted to be the Wizard of Oz guy. And so as I was graduating, I knew I wanted to get my bachelor's, knew I wanted to get my master's. I met folks along the way that said, hey, Troy, you really need to get your doctorate degree. And there was just so much emphasis on it. I remember even at my bachelor's level, once I graduated, everyone was excited except for me because I knew that I had to continue on to school. I had an opportunity after my bachelor's to go directly into a doctorate level program. So it was I guess it was kind of like a bridge to doctorate because, you can get your master's along the way or you can just jump to your doctorate degree. So I had an opportunity to do that. That was great. Um, I ended up getting my master's and I decided, you know what, I wanted to just kind of go back home, focus on some things home. And I applied to Delaware State as just wanted to be a programmer, just wanted to be an IT guy. Um, my they honestly they just kind of brushed me off and told me I wasn't good enough, didn't have any experience. My resume ended up on the registrar's desk one day. He called me about an associate registrar position, and the rest is history. And I fell in love with Delaware State, fell in love with administration, fell in love with being in front of students. So what I thought was my greatest weakness ended up being my greatest strength.
wow.
And then I had a mentor who kept telling me, "You got to get your union card. You got to get your union card." Talking about the doctorate degree, and he called it the union card because if you and I, now, most of the students on here may not know what a union card is, but this kind of gets you in the door, right? And he was saying, it's great you have a master's degree. It's great that you're talented. It's great that you're smart, but you've got to get your union card to get you in the door. And that was Dr. Harry Williams, and he just drilled that in my head. He said, "Take the time to get it." So once I got it, it's interesting. Kind of like once you get it, everyone all of a sudden like the sun shines on you a little differently. It's weird, but it does feel like that sometimes. But in any case, I did it, and I don't regret it. So as soon as I got it, I breathed real deeply, and I was able to catch up on all those Netflix series that everybody else was talking about that I missed. So
I understand. I understand. So, Miss Stokes, I have the exact same question for you. And the reason why I ask you this is because, you know, when you do have an MBA, right, admissions is a lot of business. You're in the business of getting these good numbers and making sure revenue is generated, right? So, what made you stay with higher ed and not go back into industry with the MBA?
I think everything is a business, right? I think a lot of people don't make note of that or pay attention to that. Nonprofits, even though it's not profit, it still runs. It's still a process. It's still a business. So with coming to Delaware State, I attended an HBCU for my undergrad, and I love the experience. So what has kept me here within the business is falling in love. Not only I've always had a love for an HBCU life, coming here and being able to make an impact in students with families and being able to change the trajectory of their lives and even their mindset and their thinking. Remembering where I was going into college, I was a first gen, raised by my grandmother. She didn't have a lot of money, and someone gave back to me. So, I have that natural passion where it doesn't need to be taught. You don't need to teach me. That's something you can't teach in a book. So that passion for just giving back and helping and attempting to change that trajectory, because it could be life or death, for families and students a lot of times. So that is what has kept me here. I do not have the honor of having a doctorate degree. I do have 2 masters. I must say the idea of going for a doctor is very intimidating. I've got to tell you that. I may do it one day. So keep me in prayerfully, if I may say that. But yes, it is. I'm a lifelong learner, whether it's a certificate, a certification, a class I'm going to take, learning from students, learning from my colleagues. I think having that mindset that things will forever change, right? Change is constant. So no matter what you do, with your degrees, whichever area you choose to go into, just know that you want to forever know, okay, I need to be learning something in whatever field I'm in, just because learning, and keeping that in the mindset. But yes, the doctor is pretty intimidating.
So I almost didn't ask you this, Dr. Kimra Jefferson, more because we've known each other for 18 years. And so I just know everything about you inside and out. But I think it's important that everybody else knows this. You had a really good opportunity while you were either working on your PhD or finishing your master's, where you were working for the government as an economist in Jersey. What made you stay the course and stay in higher ed, even more so in the sense of going from Auburn to North Carolina A&T as far as a HBCU?
Good question. So I will say that I did not choose the path that a lot of my peers did. When you choose the doctoral path, research is always encouraged, and that is the first thing on everyone's minds. However, there are so many different opportunities, and I think we're moving towards that now, but opportunities for internships as doctoral candidates, as master students. And so I started with the government, and the opportunity came about when I presented a paper. I presented a paper that my major professor and I were working on. And after my presentation, the moderator came up to me and she asked for a copy of the paper. And so I gave her a copy, and 2 weeks later, I got a job opportunity with the Economic Research Service in DC. And I would spend my time between there and Auburn throughout my graduate program. And then towards the end, when I had to make the decision, what to do, I was loving DC. I was loving it. And I originally wanted to come back to academia, but I was loving that city life. And it was great. But it was during a time when there was like a hiring freeze. And so I had a meeting with my boss one day, and she said, Kenred, we're having a hiring freeze. And so you're going to have to make some decisions, but really, is this your passion? And she said, if it is, then we'll figure something out. So I went and did some soul searching, and then I realized that my original passion was to come back specifically to an 1890 to work with students of color. And I have not regretted my decision since. So it was something that I felt was needed to have an option if I didn't want to do academia. But my first passion and love is 1890. I mean, it's my first passion.
So I'm going to switch up because this question really should come towards the end, but everything has changed, right? So we've lived enough life, myself and the panelists, in the sense of knowing how to cope, strategies, things of that nature. And also the time and places in which we grew up were not nearly as traumatic as today, right? So I've noticed with Generation Z that they are so much open and welcome to mental health. Um, Learning different strategies, techniques, therapies, things of that nature. And so one of my questions that I want to ask is, and I'll start with Dr. Todd, and I'm saying this because they always say in a PhD program that you never get married and you never have a child, right? So I just wanted to know, and that's because it's already stressful, right? So I wanted to know if you had any life instances throughout any part of your academic journey as far as college to graduate school that you were able to overcome and or with strategies, support, techniques that you might utilize to be successful academically.
Well, I will say this just to reference what Dr. Meredith just said. He said, never get married, have children during a PhD. I had my first son during my first year of my master's. I had my third son during my second year of my PhD. And right before I walked across the stage to earn my PhD, or right 10 days after I had my last son. So I did all of the things that you weren't supposed to do during a
Yes.
PhD, I guess. So
And you actually inspire.
there
I'll tell you that all the time.
well, and to know me is, I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, because I came out of my program and then you were
Right.
going on, and I was like, how is she having these kids? She's married. And then I was just like, wow. I was like, and here I am single, and I'm not trying to put my mind to it. So I tell her all the time that I give her credit for me getting back into the program and getting into the group because she always inspired me. She's like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. So, but I thank you for,
Well,
like, for
I think
instance,
the biggest reason, and this is honestly what it is, I love a good sale. And when somebody gives me something for free, how can I turn away free? They say free PhD and you can still continue to have your job here. There's no way I can turn that down. Someone said, hey, free masters and you get paid to do it and your husband is coming along with you too. I mean, I couldn't turn that opportunity down. Now, if it was something that I probably had to come out of pocket for, I might have jumped ship a long time ago. But I definitely am starting to see the benefits. From I see the benefit just the normalcy of my children not even being excited that their mother is an academic. It's just something normal to them. They're like, oh yeah, you're Dr. Todd. They don't care. And I love the fact that it's not amazing to them. It's normal. And I hope that that sets the precedence for when they have children, that this is not some kind of, I don't know. I like the fact that they don't treat me like I'm special. And I love a sale, so can't turn away anything that's free. That was the biggest selling point for me to stay in the program because I did get tired. There were plenty times I got tired, plenty times where I did want to quit, but hey, once I start a thing, I try to push
completely.
through to finish. So.
Okay. Dr. Holmes, any instances or setbacks that you like to talk about or how you overcame them while you were in your academics? Well,
Uh,
throughout your academic-
sure. Couple setbacks, interesting times. I think we all have stories like that. Um, just like Dr. Todd said, I mean, I grew up here in Delaware, and so, I mean, no one, I was first gen, no one else went to college. So, everybody puts their eggs in my basket. Of course, you got to go, right? And no pressure, but we expect you to just do these amazing things. My journey was interesting. Like I told you, once I finished my bachelor's, I was on a fellowship, had an opportunity to work on my PhD at Rensselaer, very, very well known school. Finished my qualifying exams, did everything I was supposed to do, and then I decided to leave. And my advisor ate me up. I mean, like, what are you doing? Like, Tura, you just finished the qualifying exam. You're getting paid to go to school. What are you doing? But I just felt the need to come back, and I really just wanted to help my community. At that point, I was about 24, 25. Again, I grew up here in Delaware. I remember coming to Dover. I grew up in Laurel in Sussex County. I remember coming to Dover, and they would always tell me, never go to that school right there across from the brick wall. And I did not understand that. And so when I was able to get my degree and come back, the first place I wanted to go was get a job at Delaware State because I said I want to impact my community. I want to be a part of some. UD doesn't need me. Del State needs me. So that's what brought me here, and I've enjoyed it ever since. Once I got here, I put in about 10 years. Mentor saying, "Hey, Troy, you got to finish your doctorate degree up." Still, again, qualifying exams are done up there, but by that time, I probably aged out of the program. And I bought a house, had 2 kids, and then my wife says, "Hey, I want to go to law school," because she wanted to be a lawyer. And I'm like, okay, I got 2 car payments and a brand new mortgage, and she wants to quit her job and go to law school. So then she said, "You know what? You need to go and finish your doctorate degree." So 2 parents with 2 kids, 2 car payments, and a brand new mortgage decided to go to school at the same time. She's driving to DC. I know, right? Just glutton for punishment, like Dr. Todd. Glutton for punishment. So she's driving 2 hours to DC, 4 times a week. I'm in doctoral level classes, every other week on all through the weekend. We do this with a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. They're right behind each other because, again, we don't know how to act. And we finish. She finishes in 4 years. I finished the following year with all that going on. So a few obstacles here and there, but we pushed each other through it. We made it. And just as Dr. Todd said, we barely had high school graduates in my family. My kids are growing up with a doctor and lawyer in their household. And as far as they know, everyone goes to college. Everyone pursues a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But me, college was a dream, right? I looked at a different world and thought that truly was a different world. So to be living that is pretty amazing.
Dr. Jefferson, you made a little bit of a face when he was talking about his story, at least in the beginning with qualifying. What about you? Any setbacks, instances?
Oh, wow. So I did receive, I told you all the degrees that I received, but I did have a detour. Um, I started my doctoral program at the University of Illinois, and that experience was very tough. My cohort I was the only American in my cohort. And it helped me to understand that there's different study strategies from different cultures. And one of the things that was tough for me is that my peers did not believe in study groups. So, and I too, I do study alone, but I do like to get together with others just to see, if we're all on the same page, but I did not have that. And so it was a very lonely process and it was tough. So I ended up, one day I heard a voice and I know what the voice was. The voice said, "Why are you here?" And so I ended up changing and applying to programs near my parents in Louisiana. So I applied for Texas, Mississippi, Auburn, and LSU. And I ended up getting a really good package from Auburn. And so that's how I ended up choosing Auburn. But when I was in the program, I remember being really, really sick. And I remember going to the doctor. My hair had started falling out.
Mm.
And he told me, "Kenred, there's nothing wrong with you other than you're just stressed." And so he gave me an excuse from classes to take a break, take a step back. And I did that. And when I did that, I didn't I heard that voice that said, "Why are you here?" Not maybe 2 or 3 months after that. And it changed my life. I redirected myself. I took the offer with Auburn. I went down there. I was repurposed and I did what I needed to do. And at the end of that academic year, I was named the top graduate student of our multicultural affairs program.
Mm.
So of all the students of color, I was the top graduate student. That was to me a miracle in itself because, I may not have made it mentally, physically. And so I ended up there and I just took off after that. And Auburn provided a lot of support. So one of the strategies that I implemented after that Illinois experience, I made sure that I did not study after a certain time. I treated school like it was a job. So I would get up every day, I would be on campus at 8, I would leave at 5, and that was it. Unless I had an exam to study for or something like that, I didn't do any work related. I gave myself a break on a daily basis. But at Illinois, I was doing some grind. I was getting up early, coming home, eating, going back on campus, staying until like 12 midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then starting that process all over at 6 a.m. It was too much. I burned out. And so I realized that by providing that mental break and space
Mhm.
and time management, it basically saved my life. So I encourage you all, if you're ever going through a situation, take a step back.
Mhm.
And this, if you feel yourself getting out of balance, take a step back. It's okay to take a day or two. We'd rather have you here than not have you here. And
Mhm.
so, and then create some strategies to keep you and hold you because it's not worth it.
Well, I
And,
was gonna
and
say,
I have a degree to show for that.
I know that you have a hard stop, and so I want to definitely get your perspective about. You just mentioned one, and Miss Stokes, I got you. I'm coming back to you as well. Um, but Dr. Jefferson, do you have any academic strategies that, like you just mentioned, one for yourself, and or also like you were my professor. So throughout all this time, I know that you've had to have either documented or noticed that how your students are able to succeed academically and strategies that they might have put in place that might have
That may have taught me.
taught you to be able to then give to other students, to give
Oh,
to students.
oh wow. Ooh.
Well, I'll let you think about that. Hold on,
Yeah.
Miss Stokes. I'll let you, Miss Stokes,
Okay.
instances that you might have. And panel, I am going to ask you guys about academic strategies, so I want you guys to be mindful of that. Miss Stokes, any instances throughout your education?
No, I mean everything was just a walk in the park.
No, it wasn't. Because I'm like, we know each other. But go ahead.
Not at all. For in the essence of time, when I got my first master's, probably the very difficult. So, well, it was an exciting time. So I did my, well, I'm divorced now. Sorry, TMI. But at the time, it was my soon-to-be husband. We were working on our masters at the same time. Completely different fields. I'm MBA. He's education, right? So within the same year, within a 3-month span, we got married, finished our masters, and bought a house. Correct. We're two only children. Again, I'm first gen. I don't know what I was thinking, but for me, I'm very driven. And what helped me was a plan. I don't, sometimes it's taking a napkin, writing it down with arrows and dots and all. You have to have a plan. So that's what worked for me. It was all three things were exciting, right? But you have to think about it, right? So I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I do everything I need to for this master's from education and this house before this baby comes. Because from what I heard, once the baby comes, it's like no sleep, it's everything that no one likes. Fine. So that was my order of my plan. So you have to really sit down and figure out what order these things need to come in. And everyone said I was crazy, but that was probably the best year of my life. But that's what worked for me.
Yes.
I work well in not even chaos, but I work well when it's a lot going on, things are successful, and there's a plan. And you can just literally check off boxes as you go through the execution of them. But I don't work well being stagnant. I don't work well when nothing is going on, right? There's always, it has to be something going on. But again, working towards something greater, right? So even if you can't see what's happening in that moment, you know there's a plan for the greater. So for me, those three things, and everyone said I was crazy, literally everyone, but everything went off without a hitch. It went off well, no stress. It was wonderful. So yeah, so for me, that was happening at the same time, all three things.
So I want to give you guys an example of some of what I meant because Dr. Jefferson was looking to me like, Alex, where'd that come from? So I'm going to say this. When I say different types of strategies, like for me, if I write something one time, I never forget it. Like that's just me. I know that about myself. And so a lot of times students will think reading a book is old school. But if you see this book, you'll see highlighted and I always notate because instead of me having to come back, I'm going to remember something that I need from it. But instead of rereading it, it's highlighted and it's notated about, about what I need. So that's definitely one of my strategies when it comes to, as far as what I was able to do in pursuing my academics. Where do you guys have any other strategies that you might have ever put in place that whether they're unique or not? I really like Dr. Jefferson, I always knew that it was business. So so that's not a bad thing because it modeled definitely to students like myself, like that's how it should be at work. But do you guys have any other unique things that you might have done with studying?
I don't like reading. So I read because I have to. So I have to highlight and I have to write notes. Have to write notes. And once write them, I remember. I'm kind of like you, but I have to listen to things. I was in the band in college and in high school, so learning through repetition, right? So if I'm listening, whether it's a podcast, like whatever content I need to learn, I will find a podcast. I will find something. I got to listen to it in the car. I really need to and go instead of listening to my music, R&B, whatever I listen to, I'll put that on because I'm like, nope, I know I need to learn about whatever this is, right? So I'll listen to that and when I get home, right? Turn everything off as I'm cooking dinner. Let me put something on, turn it on real loud so it can come into my brain, right? And I know it's super corny, but I do stand in front of the mirror and act like I'm presenting something. So if it's content that I need to learn, I mean, it's a whole show going on with between me and the mirror. So my son knows he's 12. He looks at me like I'm crazy, and that's fine. It's I
It sounds like you are using imagery or envisioning yourself in the future so that you're almost relieving anxiety for when you actually do get there to perform.
Yeah, and for me, it's not even anxiety. It's really excitement. Like it
Uh,
is. I can be known to be over the top, right? Just I talk with my hands, my facial expressions. It's boom, right? So I really mirror after Beyonce with the excitement and the extra, if you will. But no, but it really is the excitement. So I have to do that so I don't get too over the top when I have to make this big pitch or this big presentation, or I have to take this test and I don't do too much, right? So that helps me to just chill out, girlfriend.
Okay, but also I have a question for Dr. Holmes because I did do some time in his office for my administrative internship, and if he has jokes, we can go there. But my thing is this: is that Dr. Holmes, I remember that you were telling me like your last year of your doctorate program was the most stressful time of your life. How were you able to? And I say that because he's an administrator, a father, a husband, and was in the doctoral program. How were you able to effectively prioritize all of those things when you're an administrator and you are called on things at the drop of a dime to definitely to fix?
Yeah. So I think my biggest thing is, Dr. Jefferson said, you got to find a routine that works for you. I mean, my routine was ridiculous. But you just kind of have to know when you're the most effective. So I did a lot of my writing at late evening, early morning when I was writing my dissertation. So it would be, at the time, I was a registrar here at the institution. So, I mean, I was working probably 10 hours. Again, my wife is driving 2 hours, so she wasn't there. Made sure my kids ate, they were in the tub, make sure they washed up, whatever. Probably about 8 p.m. when they're about to go to sleep, I would fall off to take that nap. I'd wake up to them little 5 and 6 year olds. Hey guys, time to go to bed. I put them to bed, and then I would probably work from 9 to probably about 2. And this was almost every night. And in many cases, you know, my wife was on her way home, so I'm talking to her, make sure she's good on the road, that sort of stuff. But that worked for me. And then, you know, from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. or whatever, I would kind of, you know, sleep, and I would do the same thing. So you have to find a routine. I think also, we're all talented. You're talented. You're here, so we know you're talented. But you cannot be afraid to relearn how to learn. Right? I
Mm.
remember in my doctorate program. I mean, I was so frustrated because I just my advisor, he was trying to be smart, but he said to me, "Everybody's smart here, so you're not special." And he said that to me, and I really had to. Instead of me taking it offensive, I took it as a challenge, and I had to. I a person that didn't study, I had to study. A person who didn't, most of my learning is done in the lecture time, writing notes. During lecture, I love lecture. That's the time when I learn because as I'm writing, I pull in the information.
Did you
So
ever use classical? Because a lot of people sleep on
yes,
classical music,
yes,
but sometimes I would sit in silence and write.
yep,
And then sometimes I don't know if it's because of what it does to your brain waves, but classical, I could just write and write and write and write. And I was
too.
like, wow, I didn't even know about this till now. But
Yeah,
please don't
me
sleep
too.
on classical.
A lot of classical when I wrote my dissertation. Also, because again, I'm one of seven, I'm used to a lot of noise around me. So quiet makes me nervous. So I would have my kids, I would invite them into my space to play, to laugh, to giggle. Because if it was too quiet, I would be nervous. My mind would be all over the place. So I needed my kids around me to play and hey dad and all this stuff in order for me to concentrate to truly get work done, which again is another weird thing.
So, and Dr. Todd, I did not forget you. I'm just going to skip and I'm going to skip right back. But Dr. Jefferson, the last question for you, like I said, I know that you have to go. Can you just talk about the correlation that you've seen or that you know of through your studies and your being a professional, um, the correlation between academic success and being a professional
Academic success.
success?
Success. You know, it's almost like if you that saying, I don't like the saying, but fake it till you make it kind of thing. So if you dress a certain way, it automatically makes you
Confident.
present yourself in a certain way. If you try to pay attention to how you speak, you know, it keeps you present. All of those things are things that being on time, getting up early, getting centered, finding your structure, like Dr. Holmes just mentioned. Um, all of those things are a part of professionalism. Reading or listening to podcasts, like was that Dr. Stokes? All of these things are a part of professional development, and it should parallel academic success. So I hope you all are involved with organizations like Manners, and maybe have participated in AFA, because all of those things, just having more practice and doing those things, they help you to not only achieve academic success, but it also helps you to find your pathway, whether that's entrepreneurship or career, or even professional school. It just like I'll give you an example. When I was an undergrad, one of the things I used to do, I would put a cover sheet. Oh, Toastmasters. Yes. I'm actually a member of Toastmasters because I adopted a lifelong leadership program for my life. And Toastmasters is it. Not only to help with communication skills, but they have so many different pathways to help you with leadership development, communication, public speaking, all those things. But when I was an undergrad, I would put a cover sheet on every assignment. You all submit everything electronic. We used to turn things in on paper, but I made sure I would do that. And do you know I had so much favor with my professors? because it was just the point of having respect for the assignment and learning. It just gets you indoors. And also, when I was an undergrad, I went to this local printer and I had them to print business cards for myself. So every time I introduced myself to someone new, I would pull out my business card. It says a lot about you and it positions you to or for academic success. So always think about those things and how you present yourself. It's so important.
Okay. Dr. Todd, what about yourself?
I'm sorry, what was that?
So what about yourself?
Some strategies that I use?
Not just strategies. I mean, no, as far as professional, what correlation between all of the academic training that you've had
Mhm.
and its relationship to being an exceptional professional?
I have to give myself grace. I'm not one of those type of people that can write a whole lot. I know people can sit and write 10 pages. When I was doing my dissertation, I would give myself a page a day because I already know that I'm not one of those type of people that can do a whole bunch of writing. And another thing, I learn better with reading something first and then following up with a video or something to explain what I just read. Um, my friend became YouTube when I was in school and when I was writing. And even to this day, with my students, I'll try to follow up a lot of the stuff that I teach in class with some applied type activity where they can get more information. So I always like to say this: the first time that I learned about what's his name? What was the name of Alexander Hamilton is by watching the play Hamilton.
Hmm.
I'm not a history person. I am not interested. I know that sounds ignorant, but I'm not a person that can really talk about the dates of history. But when I watched that play by Lin-Manuel Miranda, I could tell you all about that because it was set to song and it was
Hmm.
something that I was interested in. So for me, one of my learning techniques is I can't listen to music in the background, but if I could read something and then follow it up with something entertaining that reinforces whatever I just learned, that's for me. And then to give myself the grace to know that I don't write in big chunks. I just write maybe a half a page to a page at a time, and that's all I'm going to do for the day. Because if I write anything more than that, it's going to sound like a bunch of google gobble. So
I
yeah,
got you.
that's my. But
So,
I too have to leave for class. I'm sorry, Dr. Meredith.
okay. No problem. No problem at all. And also, students, I have dropped the chat. I mean, I've dropped the actual link in the chat for the survey. And we'll probably end up doing one more question for our actually, no. Students, do you guys have any questions for our panelists?
Like whenever you guys find something that's like hard for you to wrap your mind over, do you guys always try to uh find something else that like you already know or that you're passionate about so that it's easier for you to pick up? Like just like how you were saying, you try to reinforce the information with something entertaining, things like that.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I can try to answer your question. There were times during my doctorate journey where there were concepts that were difficult for me to understand. You cannot be afraid to do extra reading, extra research to establish the foundation to understand what you're reading. For instance, your professor, they have what they call required books, and then they have suggested reading. Most of the time, we go straight to the required reading, and we don't even touch the suggested. Who has time for suggested? Don't be afraid to look at that suggested reading because that helps to establish the foundation for what you're for the foundation that you need in order to even start being successful. Again, I remember, there were some concepts I just did not know that some of my colleagues knew. So I had to go back, learn the concept to understand how to do the homework that I should already know how to understand and know how to do. Don't be afraid to do that.
Okay. And then also, what I really am going after when we talk about being a professional, one, like Dr. Holmes is basically saying, doing more than what's asked of you when it comes to reading. The way that you become a better writer is because you become a better reader, right? You've been able to see more examples on how to use words, how to use grammar, all of those things. And so for me, and I'm always driving this home to Dell State students, is writing. It's writing and making sure that you are up on your game with writing, because nothing's worse than your words are going to get to people before you will, right? And so, so if you have a poor representation of your writing and then somebody meets you, it doesn't matter how phenomenal you think you are. It just doesn't go. Somebody's already made an impression about you, no matter what. So, like I said, please be mindful of that as well. If we could thank Dr. Holmes and Ms. Stokes, who's still with us, for taking out time out of their busy schedule to come and work with us today. I appreciate you guys so much. Yeah, and I hope that you guys definitely enjoyed your time with us, and that you definitely come back.